in our region right now, we're back into lockdown, and there's been some controversy about this third lockdown. Do you want to give us kind of a breakdown, dude, on what exactly went down this week?
All right, so this is what happened. So, a local gym in our city, actually a gym that I've recently started to go to, has decided to rebel against the city stated lockdown.
Now, this isn't some low key rebellion. This was like a big social media post that got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, like you said, this wasn't done in secret. They were very vocal about, hey, we're going to open up on this lockdown day, no matter what. Come to the gym, work out, so forth.
Right. And
then what happened was they go first day, Monday morning, first day of lockdown, they open up. 7 police officers come into the building without their permission. There's like a gate. They told them they weren't opening it.
Yeah.
Came in and gave them a fine. And I've heard different numbers about what that fine was, so I'm not going to say because I don't know for a fact, but I know it wasn't cheap.
Right. And I think there's definitely two sides to this. A lot of people are anti-lockdown right now. I understand why. A lot of people want to stay home and be safe. And again, I understand why. I do think, though, as a business owner, it's kind of your responsibility to think about your patrons and think about the business kind of like it's like a child. And I don't know if it was the most responsible thing, in my opinion, the most responsible thing to go and say, hey, public, that anyone can see, even police officers, we're not listening. Because if you look in New York, you look at Toronto, you look at other cities, other business owners have done that, and the exact same thing happened. So what's stopping this local business from having the same fate?
Yeah, because I think there actually is more businesses locally that have been proceeding as normal, but have been more low key about it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for this business, this gym, they were just it was more of a statement about COVID in general, their feelings about it, government response, and kind of speaking for a large group of people now that are kind of like, hey, we've had enough.
And I think one of the arguments too is that a gym is a place where you get that tension out, you put in that physical activity. It's really good for your mental health. I know personally, I've really been like in this space where the mental health thing's starting to creep up on me. And I take really good care of my mental health. Like I meditate daily. I'm always reading. I'm always learning about, anxiety and stress and all this stuff. So even in my position where I would say more effort than the regular person, I'm even feeling it, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I get the frustration of, why aren't you letting us just be and do the one thing that allows us to feel good?
Well, it's interesting coming from a North American perspective of this is really the first time ever probably in our lives where we felt some sort of government control this strongly.
Right.
Now, for third world countries, they've experienced government oppression very differently than we have. And it's and there's a potential for people maybe in other countries to look at us and be like, this is very first world problems. You can't go to your $100 a month gym and it's like the government's oppressing me, my rights, right? And I see both perspectives. And the thing that's kind of interesting, you were talking about how the gym is a big thing with mental health, right? Exercising helps your mental health. And I can see how a gym business owner could be frustrated when there's other things that are still open and it's like, well, why is that open and we aren't? Like, for example, and I'm not 100% certain because I didn't actually go into the store, but I went into the local mall to get some food at the food court and it looked like H&M was still open, right? Like the doors were open. I saw people inside. So I could understand the frustration of how is an H&M building, even if it's a limited capacity, how is that open? Or how is the pita pit open? Right? I get it's food, but at the end of the day, is what's essential,
So I've heard this argument too with Walmart. Like, how is Walmart able to sell everything when then the mom and pop, the niche down mom and pop shops that only do like women's clothing, they're out of luck. But Walmart's still able to sell women's clothing. And that seems to be a running example or a running argument for the side of, just let everyone be open. Just let everybody be open. Put restrictions on the amount of people in the shop. Have your social distancing. Have your masks. Really, it's been pretty much determined that the reason that we keep going back into lockdown is because we have early gatherings, like gatherings when maybe we shouldn't be doing it yet. And that's been the reason, or like family, and it's not really people going and shopping. So why are the businesses getting shot in the foot? I see both sides, but it's really polarizing.
I've never understood the Walmart type argument where it's like, why is Walmart open, or why is the grocery store, this big grocery store, open? I'm like, well, that is an essential. People need to get food,
right?
So it's not. I don't feel like that's a really good argument. I don't feel like that's comparable.
Also, at the same time, like, what, do you not want to be able to shop at all? Like, shouldn't you be a little bit happy that Walmart's open, because then, you know, you can actually go and, like, if I want to buy, you know, let's say I just want to buy like a soccer ball, but every other sports store is closed because they're not essential. At least I have Walmart, you know, at least I'm not locked out and I just have to rely on Amazon, right? Because that would be the other option, or some other niched e-commerce store.
Yeah, I think it's starting to become one of those things where we're now a year into it, and there's so many people that COVID hasn't affected directly from the actual illness. Like, maybe you've gotten it or you know someone, but I don't think there's anyone that you or me know that has maybe passed away from it, or so forth. And obviously there has been people who have. We're not like deniers here, but when so many people, especially in our community, haven't been directly affected by it, it's really hard to accept lockdown rules, because it's like, well, what is the big problem here? COVID, right. For everyone I know, at least, COVID is such a non-issue. Like, no one is afraid of it.
Yeah, and I think too, what you're saying is, like, we don't see it, and all that we have to go off of are the government's numbers, and people are even skeptical of the government's numbers, because there's this running argument that hospitals in the States and Canada are allowed to almost like profit off of someone with COVID. Like, they just get to profit off of them in some way. I don't really understand the mechanics of it. I think they get some like sort of government grant just for housing the patient. But if you know more about that, obviously drop a comment. I would love to know exactly how that works. But that's been like something that people are having to rely on, is the premier or the prime minister, Lord forbid, the prime minister coming on TV and just reading off of a sheet of paper whatever his people tell him to say.
So what's really funny to me, and I'm sure you see it on Facebook all the time, because it's usually Facebook for the most part, I see this, where it's, you know, if I was Doug Ford or if I was Justin Trudeau, we're Canadians, people with whom referencing, but if I was these political leaders, this is what I would do, right? And I laugh, because I just think there is a reason why you are not in that position of power. You can't even get control of your own life, let alone dictate the province or the country.
Yeah.
And there's always this thing of like, well, the government just wants more control. This is a power grab. But the thing is, what is Trudeau and Doug Ford benefiting from this? We have a friend who actually works with Ford and is in that community, and he was just talking about how Ford just looks like a dead man walking. Like, he's exhausted. Like, this is not something that politicians are like, oh, I just wish we were in a pandemic so I could profit off of it. You know?
So that is something that I've definitely paid attention to, is like Doug Ford and even Trudeau, they have to get on TV and make these, you know, very stressful exclamations of, this is what it is, this is what we have to do, and they're the target, they're the spotlight, and that is so bad for that individual to go through. Like, I definitely feel for them, specifically. Like, I feel like Doug Ford specifically I feel for, because he has to answer to the people above him, and he has to answer to the people below him, and he has to answer to the people. So he can't even make like a big federal decision. He can only make a provincial decision, and most of the time, if the federal level even allows him to do it. So it's kind of like he has to be the target, but he doesn't really get to make all the decisions, at least from my perspective. That's how it seems.